Celine, with her deep and icy blue eyes, complemented by a prominent nose and exquisite facial features, exudes an aura of allure. Her iconic black leather suit, coupled with her lethal skills, further enhances her captivating presence. I believe it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that Celine is the most stunning vampire I've ever seen, and I don't think anyone would object to. For thousands of years, a dark underground world has existed on Earth, where vampires and werewolves fight to the death, each aiming to eradicate the other. 600 years ago, the ultimate battle broke out between two races. The two sides fought to the death. The battle was followed by an epic victory for the vampire clan. However, the lycans did not vanish. They bided their time, lurking in the underground, awaiting their moment of resurgence. To eliminate the remaining werewolf presence, the vampire clan established a specialized organization. As an exceptional death dealer, Celine has relentlessly hunted down werewolves for the past 6 centuries, never ceasing. On a stormy night, Celine and her teammates embarked on a hunting mission. With centuries of experience, Celine immediately recognized the suspicious presence of werewolves among the crowd. They looked suspicious, as if they were looking for something. The alert werewolves swiftly detected the presence of vampires, and a fierce battle ensued. Unfortunately, one of Celine's teammates was struck by a bullet. As vampires possess incredible regenerative abilities, ordinary bullets pose no threat to their lives. However, something peculiar happened this time. After being shot, her teammate's body emitted an eerie blue glow, quickly reducing to a pile of charred remains. The werewolf is instantly enraged by the interruption of his movement and in a terrifying hiss transforming into werewolf form. Celine isn't planning on letting these ugly bastards off the hook. Following the trail of bloodstains left by the silver bullets and splattered on the walls, she tracks them all the way to the sewer. The cunning werewolf deluded himself into a sneak attack from behind. Little did he know the extent of Celine's prowess. She swiftly turns around and guns him down. The gruesome death of her teammate leaves Celine deeply perplexed. Upon inspecting the werewolf's bullets, she realizes they were specially designed to take down vampires. Meanwhile, the howls of numerous werewolves reverberate through the tunnel. The discovery tonight is of utmost importance. Celine is no longer in the mood for a fight. She hastily drives back to headquarters and hands over the bullets to the weapons expert. It turns out they are a new type of concentrated UV ammunition, undoubtedly deadly to vampires who fear sunlight. After centuries of hunting, Leader Craven believes there are only a few werewolves left today. He thinks they can't make much of a splash, but Celine can't let go of her suspicions. Suddenly, a multitude of werewolves gather at this location. They surely have a plot. Based on the pictures taken last night, she discovers the werewolves are tracking an ordinary man. What are they up to? After all, using technological means, Celine retrieves Michael's personal information. Based on the address, she barges into Michael's house.
Why are they after you?
As expected, a large group of werewolves immediately appears. Seizing this opportunity, Michael rushes into the elevator, but as soon as he reaches the ground floor, Lucian blocks his way. Celine doesn't want to get entangled with the werewolves, ground pierced with silver bullets. She is still a step behind. Michael still gets bitten hard. Even if Michael is rescued, Lucian has already achieved his objective. He collects blood samples into test tubes. Then, a shocking scene unfolds. Michael's blood enhances his powers greatly. The silver bullets, feared by werewolves, are forced out of his body. On the other side, Michael has no clue why werewolves are hunting him, and who this woman in front of him is. He doesn't have time to think much, as the persistent Lucian leaps onto the car roof at an astonishing speed and stabs Celine with a sharp blade. Due to excessive blood loss, she falls into unconsciousness. The car plunges into the water. Fortunately, Michael manages to rescue Celine. Lucian returns to the lair and hands over the samples to the werewolf scientist, Singe. Through research, they discover that Michael's red blood cells can perfectly merge with werewolves. So, who exactly is Michael? In the 5th century AD, Europe experienced the devastating Black Death, causing the deaths of countless individuals during this pandemic. However, a man named Alexander miraculously survived. Simultaneously, the virus awakened latent genes within him, turning him into the first immortal being. Alexander later fathered 3 sons, each inheriting the same gene. Marcus was bitten by a bat and became the progenitor of vampires. William was bitten by a ferocious wolf. transforming into a werewolf. This genetic mutation granted them eternal life, but they had fatal weaknesses. Vampires greatly feared sunlight, while werewolves were naturally vulnerable to silver weapons. As the third son, a mere human, he experienced the cycle of life and death, continuously reproducing and thriving. Michael is his offspring, and he has inherited Alexander's special genes. Werewolves try to compensate for their weaknesses with the pure blood of their ancestors and fight against the vampires. After waking up, Celine brought Michael back to headquarters for recovery. By this time, his body had undergone some changes, and ancient memories flashed through his mind. The handsome man caught the attention of a female vampire named Erica, who curiously examined Michael's wound, a werewolf bite on his shoulder. The sight frightened her, causing her to jump straight to the ceiling. When Michael saw the woman revealing her fangs, he panicked and immediately jumped out of the window in a state of disarray. Craven's exaggerated reaction raised suspicions in Celine's mind, as she felt he was deliberately hiding something. Taking advantage of the cover of night, she stealthily infiltrated the archives and found an ancient history book documenting a battle that occurred 600 years ago. To her surprise, the necklace worn by the Wolf King in the illustrations was identical to the one she had encountered during their encounter with Lucian. According to records, only Craven survived that battle and returned with a piece of the Wolf King's emblematic skin. Casting doubt on the authenticity of the event, Celine couldn't help but suspect that Lucian, the Wolf King, might still be alive. The reality aligned with her concerns. Craven had been colluding with the werewolves in secret. Celine sensed that the situation for the vampires was incredibly perilous. With this in mind, she had a bold idea: to awaken Victor, the slumbering vampire elder who had been dormant for centuries. The vampire clan has 3 elder leaders in total. They are Victor, Marcus, and Amelia. As vampires are immortal, each elder governed for a 100-year period while the others remained in a state of hibernation. Currently, it was Amelia's reign, and in a few days, she would arrive at the headquarters for the official transition ceremony. The next elder to assume leadership would be Marcus. Celine dripped her own blood into Victor's mouth. With the nourishment of blood, the dried-up body tissues slowly begin to recover. Victor was resurrected 100 years earlier than planned. Vampires could exchange memories through blood, and with Celine's blood, Victor gained a rough understanding of what had transpired during his dormant period. However, the fragmented clues were not enough to convince Victor that Lucian was still alive. Unless Celine can find stronger evidence, there will be no escape from her severe punishment. Meanwhile, Elder Amelia was on her way, unaware that her whereabouts had been discovered by the werewolves. As the train pulled into the station, a chilling howl echoed through the surroundings, and countless werewolves shattered the windows, launching their attack. However, the vampire contingent stood aside and did not take any action, witnessing the elders and their entourage being brutally torn apart by the werewolves. On the other side, Michael was still pursued by the werewolves. Gazing at the radiant moon, he could no longer suppress the dormant werewolf blood within him and underwent his first agonizing transformation. In the midst of seeking evidence, Celine captured Singe and brought him in. By this time, Victor had fully restored his original appearance. Under Celine's relentless questioning, Singe revealed that Lucian had not died and disclosed his true motive for capturing Michael. The werewolves had been attempting to overcome their inherent weaknesses by fusing vampire and werewolf blood. However, the two species' cells were mutually destructive, and only with the infusion of Michael's pure blood could the 3 bloodlines merge perfectly. If Lucian injected himself with Michael's blood while simultaneously combining it with the blood of any vampire elder, he would become a hybrid with no weaknesses, an invincible being. Unfortunate news followed. The werewolves had already drained Amelia of her blood. Enraged, Victor struck Singe with a deadly blow. Inside the werewolf lair, Lucian injected himself with Michael's blood. All that's missing is Amelia's blood to complete the evolution. In a surprising turn of events, Michael, who was bitten by Lucian, started to witness his memories. Lucian was once a slave to a vampire, but fell in love with Victor's own daughter. However, Victor, adamant against the merging of the 2 bloodlines, had ruthlessly killed his own daughter. This act became the catalyst for the war between werewolves and vampires. Craven's lies were exposed, leaving him with no choice but to seek refuge with Lucian. However, in the eyes of the werewolf leader, Craven had lost all his value. Outside, Victor led a large army and stormed into the werewolf lair. By this time, Victor had fully regained his strength. Not wishing to pay any attention to Clavin, Lucian grabbed a UV weapon and prepared to go out and engage in battle. In the midst of the chaos, a furious Craven, feeling humiliated, raised his hand and shot a bullet towards Lucian's back. It was no ordinary silver bullet. It was a specially developed silver nitrate bullet designed to target werewolves. As soon as his hit, the silver nitrate spreads through his blood throughout his body. When his subordinates brought Amelia's blood to Lucian, he had already fallen into a state of unconsciousness. Taking advantage of the intense firefight between the two sides, Celine, alone, made her way to the laboratory and rescued Michael. After a passionate kiss, the two of them prepared to escape from this place of turmoil. This scene happened to be witnessed by Craven, who raised his hand and fired several shots. In an instant, Michael's body was filled with silver nitrate. In order to form an alliance with Celine, Craven revealed the mystery of her lineage. In fact, it wasn't the werewolves who killed Celine's entire family, but the vampire elder Victor. Celine had survived because she bore a striking resemblance to Victor's daughter, Sonia. Without a doubt, Celine still turned him down. Just as Craven was about to strike, the half-dead Lucian suddenly appeared and pierced Craven's leg with a sword.
Bite him. Half vampire, half lycan.
That's how Michael became the first man in history to possess the genes of 3 species, becoming a hybrid of vampire, werewolf, and human. Victor had always viewed werewolves as slaves and couldn't tolerate the union of vampires and werewolves. It was for this reason that he cruelly executed his own daughter. Now he had to face a similar situation once again. Under Celine's questioning, Victor admitted to killing Celine's family. However, Michael, who had just undergone a genetic mutation, had surprised Victor with his tremendous power. Even in his newly transformed state, Michael was on par with Victor in combat. However, Victor, having lived for thousands of years, possessed vast combat experience and quickly grasped Michael's tactics. With a single punch, he sent Michael flying. Just as Victor was about to deliver a fatal blow, Celine picked up an incredibly sharp sword and cleaved Victor in half. The terrifying power displayed by Michael left the lurking werewolves in awe, causing them to scatter in different directions. Selena has finally avenged her family's death. She took Lucian's necklace and left with Michael. However, the crime of killing an elder is unforgivable. Remember Singe, the one killed by Victor? No one knew that his blood was silently flowing into the tomb. Marcus, the last remaining vampire elder, was quietly awakening.